County of Bastrop, be around so many wonderful conservatives that I see out there in the audience. It's just great. Did you ever think we'd get back here? I tell you what, amazing. How many people here remember Senator Phil Graham? I thought most people would. When I was a young guy, Senator Phil Graham made a statement, and I was always perplexed by it because I said, well, what exactly does that mean? It's not very profound for a United States Senator. He said, today is a great day to be an American. Today is not a great day to be un-American. And I'll tell you what, that is a very fitting statement. So Phil, rest in peace up there, but your vision has come back around. So it is a great day today to be an American. Speaking of a pardon, I have a fellow patriot, a fellow J6er in here tonight. Yes, probably not going to make his way up here on the stage. I don't know how many years he's had, so maybe he will. But anyway, I want to introduce my friend BJ Dover over there. He also was there that day. Well, I had planned to introduce Jeremy, but I think you all know who he is. I think you know what he's doing, so I'll pass. The one thing he did not ask for himself that I'm going to ask is that we give Jeremy Story a great big Texas round of applause. Yeah! I see a lot of folks out here that I know, a lot of important people in important positions here in Bastrop County, but I guarantee if I start naming, I'll leave somebody out and I'll be in real trouble. So I just want to welcome everybody out tonight. A little quick history on me. I know Carol kind of touched on it a little bit. I'm a native-born Texan, and I'm real proud of it. Just ask any Californian, they'll tell you I'm proud of it. I was a proud Bastrop Bear. I graduated Bastrop High School in 1982. I'm 70 on my uniform. They're number one in your hearts. I spent 11 years in the Marine Corps Infantry, and another 11 years, 10 years later, in the United States Army as an infantryman and artillery. I'm going to have to put on my glasses. Vanity's going to have to just take a step aside, so I apologize. I started a peacekeeping mission in the Sinai Peninsula as well as combat tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. I come from a long line of American warriors. Having the privilege to serve my country and countrymen in uniform was the honor of a lifetime. Nothing can surpass it. That's enough about me. I want to introduce y'all real quick to my wife, Beverly. She moved tables on me, but there she is, right over there. I'm going to tell y'all a little story here in a little bit. I'm going to tell y'all, I just want to say this about Beverly right now. I couldn't have made it without her. I couldn't have got through it. She is my rock. She is a resilient and strong woman, and I love her. I love you, Beverly. This evening we've come together to laugh, listen to some great music by the Night Shift Band, get in a little dancing, and most of all, celebrate the inauguration of our president, Donald J. Trump. Woo! Every patriotic American here tonight in our beloved Bastrop County, across the great state of Texas, and in every corner of our great republic, we are not just celebrating our president, but the death of tyranny in our midst and the rise of freedom and sweet liberty. It is a day of tremendous joy and vindication for those of us who have kept the home fires burning, carried the torch for 4 long years, dark years. Our long national nightmare is over. Thanks to President Donald J. Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance, along with their campaign team, our republic dodged a big bullet, both literally and figuratively. The last 4 years have been a raging storm across our republic, and throughout the duration of that storm, we survived on our faith. We prayed to Almighty God for salvation for our republic and for the sun to break through the clouds and shine on these United States. Today, our national forecast is bright and it is optimistic.
Yep.
However, we do not have the luxury of resting on our laurels. We must remain resolute and vigilant as we go forth, for tyranny never rests. When it is stopped on one front, tyranny does not surrender. It simply attacks in a different direction. Tyranny, in all its forms, is the natural enemy of free men and women everywhere. Tyranny is the natural enemy of our Constitution, which is the very ramparts that protects our freedoms and precious liberty. Tyranny is insidious and it is highly motivated. I would ask that you indulge me tonight as I share with you my own brush with tyranny, as I take you back to January 6, 2021. On January 5th, I traveled to Washington, D.C. with a couple of my Marine buddies. Our intent was to travel to the Capitol to take part in the Stop the Steal rally in Ellipse Park, south of the White House. Afterwards, we would make a pilgrimage and pay our respects at the Iwo Jima Memorial, something every Marine has to do when he goes to Washington, D.C. Hoorah! All right. Fate had other plans for me that day, though, folks. People sometimes ask me, what motivated you to even go to the Stop the Steal rally? Well, that's an easy one to answer. I can tell you that right now. In the wake of the 2020 elections, millions of Americans had questions about discrepancies at the polls, absurdly late vote tallies, and indeed the veracity of the election itself. It was the duty of our tone-deaf government to satisfy the doubts of the people, thus ensuring their voice in their government had indeed been counted properly. Instead, the government used the megaphone of the media to vilify and invalidate our voice through hyperbole and ad hominem. If they wanted to restore our faith in our election system, they could have proven beyond a doubt to us that our fears were wrong. Yet instead of doing their due diligence, they resorted to vitriolic and divisive language, labeling us racist, bigots, white supremacists, and far-right extremists. And this, because as American citizens, we dared to question our government. We dared to question the integrity of a national election. We, the people, dared to petition for a redress of grievances with our government, as guaranteed us in the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights, enshrined in our beloved Constitution. To question our government, to express and display the courage of our convictions, principles, and values is the protected right, the duty, and the obligation of every American citizen.
Right.
Later in the day of January 6, 2021, I would choose to march up Pennsylvania Avenue, past the Trump Towers Hotel, past the J. Edgar Hoover FBI headquarters building, and ironically, past the giant statue with the words of our First Amendment engraved upon its face. When I arrived at the Capitol, folks were singing songs. They were chanting, USA, USA. You know how it goes. They were happy people. The vast majority of people were just happy and joyous to be participating in a historical march. That is when tear gas canisters and flashbangs began to fall among us from the upper balcony. I shouted up to the officers that this was a peaceful demonstration. I climbed the stairs of the Capitol, and I entered the Capitol through an open door and traveled down a long corridor until I came to the crypt just off the rotunda. Folks, I want to tell you one thing. One of the false narratives that's been going on since the very start of this thing is that people said that Trump told us to go in the Capitol. Well, Republicans accept accountability for their actions. I chose to go in that Capitol. I went in that Capitol of my own volition. Donald Trump never once told me to go in that Capitol or anybody else. He said, go down there and have your voices heard, which is the right of every American to have your voice heard, to support your senators, because that's the folks we send to Washington to represent us. So why wouldn't we support them? He never said anything about going to that building. A lot of us just decided it was time. When I got to the rotunda, a line of officers confronted us. The crowd began to chant, USA, our house, our house. I admonished the crowd that the officers were not our enemy and not to be violent toward them. When the crowd at last surged forward, myself, my Marine buddy, and a couple of other patriots used our bodies to shield and protect the officers from potential harm. The officers would later testify to this in depositions and in my trial. And this is mentioned throughout court documents as a matter of public record. So why did I go into the people's house that day? To directly petition for a redress of grievances with my government, to demonstrate my convictions through an act of peaceful disobedience. Battles are not fought and won in the rear with the gear, but on the front lines. Throughout America's history, and indeed in the days when America struggled and fought to throw off the shackles of tyranny, not one positive change has ever come to fruition to advance the will of the American people that was not preceded by an act of civil disobedience. There would be no United States of America had the members of the Boston Tea Party not displayed the courage of their convictions to defy British tyranny and overreaching governance. The peaceful civil disobedience of Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks was illegal when they stood, or in Rosa Parks' case, sat, in the name of civil rights and be counted as equal Americans upon us all. Within the courage of their convictions, there would have been no Civil Rights Act of 1964. There would have been no Voting Rights Act of 1965. It was their courage of their convictions that got that done. Not a bunch of politicians sitting in Washington. If it had been for them, it would have never have gotten done. The very presidency of Donald Trump is an act of peaceful civil disobedience that will once again advance the American people and put America where she has always belonged, first. In the aftermath of January 6th, I watched in disbelief as many of our own elected Republicans in name only genuflected at the altar of the Democrats and media's false narrative and absurd talking points. I watched due process trampled under the feet of the Department of Justice. Joe Biden is the most powerful bully pulpit in the world to commit unlawful command influence, pronouncing our guilt before many of us even had been charged, and tainting every jury pool in every country of this, in every corner of this nation. In the case of January 6th, justice truly was blind, as judges, prosecutors, and legal experts shielded their eyes from the weaponization of the legal system to persecute and prosecute American citizens for their political affiliation, including our president, Donald J. Trump. Today, there are American citizens in a Washington gulag. They've been there since day one.
That's right.
They are being mistreated, underfed, and they certainly do not have a right to defend themselves in a court of law. On the home front, my home was raided by at least 20 FBI agents in full battle rattle. They put me in chains and shackles in my home in front of my wife. Chains and shackles. And then they perp walked me in front of my neighbors, who all came and asked me for autographs later on. After I had already told them that I would come into their office and turn myself in fact, I had already done that very thing. I had gone in and met with the FBI, completely cooperated, and they told me I had nothing to worry about right before they kicked down my door and came in and arrested me in front of my wife. And I'm going to be telling you, I'll have a tough time forgiving. My wife mind you, was not in Washington, D.C. She really didn't even want me to go. She's never broken the law in her entire life. She has a heart of gold, and she's a fantastic mother and grandmother. When we would travel around the country and go into the airport, the TSA would swarm us. And not just me. Not just me. They swarmed my wife. They had dogs sniff her. They touched her all over in public. They didn't even have the decency to take her into a private room. Overzealous TA agents, they all thought they were in an episode of Jack Reacher, I guess. When I told them they were harassing a decorated, 100% disabled combat veteran and his wife, they dumped my carry-on bag onto the floor and informed me that they could care less. And believe me, they didn't. I can expound on this subject ad nauseum. We've already had our dinner, and now we have a great band. We're going to do some dancing, some boot scooting. And I want to introduce to you tonight's entertainment, the Night Shift Band. Buddy, you want to come up and introduce them? Why don't you do that? Thank you. Thank you.
We have on keyboard, Jerry Hill. Drums, the brother Ricky Hill. Little short guy over here, Augie Ramirez, everybody. If you like it for the Night Shift Band, if you don't, we're Jesus. Thank you.